So what I'd like to do first of all is to quickly run through the agenda. So, next slide. So, I'm really excited to this. This is we've got a great set of speakers, and also we've got lots of really interesting things to tell you about Sonic Labs. So we're going to start off with some welcoming introductions from Jeremy Silver, the CEO of Digital Catapult, then Simon Saunders, Director of Emerging and Online Technology at Ofcom, and then Joe Butler, the CTO of Digital Catapult as well. And then we move on to Sonic Labs in the policy context. So we have Louise Sheridan from DCMS, and then we are delighted to welcome Matt Warman, the Minister for Digital Infrastructure, will also be joining us. Then we have some technical presentations, and including demonstrations. We have some demonstrations that we will show videos of, because unfortunately we can't be here in real life, and that will be Dritan Kaleshi and Simon Burley will be going through that. And then after that we have a short break before we move into a panel discussion, which will be chaired by Evie Ayoanidi, and really looking forward to that. Some great speakers. And then we will wrap up at the end. So now I will hand over to Jeremy Silver, the CEO of Digital Catapult. So Jeremy, could you put on your camera and take yourself off mute, and then I will hand over to you. So Jeremy, are you with us?
Excellent. Thank you very much, Paul, and good morning, everyone.
Stop sharing. Right, over to you.
Good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this webinar that we're running today, this live event. It's been a tremendous experience building and putting together this project, and I think what you're going to hear today is really going to set it out for you in a way that's very exciting. And I know that all sorts of people are extremely engaged with the ideas that sit behind Sonic Labs. And so I thought it might just be helpful, because I'm sure that you're very familiar with the work of Ofcom and of course DCMS. You may be less familiar with Digital Catapult, and so I'll just spend a couple of moments giving a little bit of an update and sharing some information about the Catapult itself. The Catapult is one of 9 catapults established by Innovate UK across the UK. Each is focused in a different area with a different domain expertise, but all have the goal of accelerating the kind of innovation that comes out of our universities, but also our innovative ecosystem of innovation companies, and really accelerating the kind of work that those companies are doing, and the ideas that are there from the idea stage right through to products and commercialization. And so at Digital Catapult, we're very, very focused on our mission to drive the early adoption of advanced digital technologies. And for us, that early adoption, we believe very firmly, leads to the growth of the companies. It leads to new job creation and new global competitiveness. And this is equally true for large established businesses, as well as for early stage companies and companies just coming onto the scene. We at Digital Catapult are really focused in 3 broad application areas, of which you will understand as I explain that Sonic sits very firmly in the area of digital infrastructure. And within that, we include our work on 5G, but also IoT work and other kinds of digital networks. So alongside that, we're also very focused on digital supply chains. And in some respects, of course, Sonic is also about establishing new supply chains and about creating a new sector in its own right, essentially. And then associated with that, we also have a strand of work and an application area which is focused on the virtualization of production. And in many respects, of course, when we look at what is opening up around Open RAN and what the open sourcing of network configuration involves, that too, the softwareization is a form of virtualization. So in lots of ways, Sonic actually embraces and cuts across all 3 of the main application areas that Digital Catapult is engaged in. But this work comes very much from our expertise in 5G that's been led for the last 4.5 years by Dritan Kaleshi, who many of you are familiar with. And we started that work in collaboration with the 5G Innovation Center at Surrey University, and we took that work out of the academic labs and into a more commercial space. We built a test bed, probably the first 5G test bed in the UK down in Brighton. We now have 2 there, and we have 7 test beds around the country. So 2 in Brighton, 1 in London, but we also have test beds now in Birmingham, in Coventry, in Wolverhampton, and in Nottingham. That network of test beds, the opportunities that those test beds offer are all open for us to be able to work with companies, to come together to collaborate, to get your hands on the technology. Of course, Sonic is an evolution on from that, and we're very excited really about the where that goes and what that will enable UK businesses and international businesses to come here and be able to do. And of course, we have really focused on 5G's potential for some time now, and there are some really exciting projects coming around that are demonstrating the kind of application capability of 5G. The 5G Festival that some of you may have been aware of, which is part of the DCMS's 5G Create program, is really demonstrating the incredible opportunities that 5G opens up for live performance, both from a performer perspective as well as from a consumer perspective, and really interesting and intriguing output coming from that on the one hand, and on the other hand, from the entertainment sector on one hand to the industrial application inside factories. Really interesting work going on in a project we're involved with BAE Systems, developing a factory of the future, where the ability to be able to create production lines wirelessly and to rapidly reconfigure the shape of a production line as a consequence of that is proving to be a really interesting application area as well. But of course, Sonic goes well beyond that. In its beginnings of exploring the way in which opening up the deep technology infrastructure is able to bring new entrants into the picture and to really diversify the supply chain in a way which I think we all think is very exciting and incredibly healthy. So it's absolutely brilliant to be involved in a partnership with Ofcom. This is the first time that we have worked together as organizations, and I have to say it's a tremendous achievement. I'm hugely indebted to our CTO, Joe Butler, who you will hear from in a few moments, but Joe, previously at Ofcom, has come to work with us at Digital Catapult and has created a bridge in this project, which I think is really bodes extremely well for the future. And of course, all of that with the tremendous support and encouragement of DCMS, to which we're hugely indebted for this project. So I hope you get a lot out of what happens during the rest of this morning. I think the discussions are going to be really interesting, and I hope you will learn a lot, and feel free to ask lots of questions of our panelists. I hope one day we will all get together in person, and so that we can do the kind of in-person networking that this kind of event normally affords. But in the meanwhile, it's a pleasure to have you all here, and I'll hand you back to Paul Seeley. Thanks very much.
Hi, thank you, Jeremy. Thank you for giving us that introduction and setting the scene for what we're going to hear for the rest of the day, well, the rest of the morning. And next, I would like to introduce a message from Melanie Dawes, Ofcom's Chief Executive. So if we can run that now.
Welcome to Ofcom's new Sonic Labs here at Riverside House in Southwark. We really hope that companies in the UK and elsewhere will come and join us to explore how we can bring new radio access technologies into the UK market. This is all about bringing innovation into our networks for the future, and we hope you'll come and join us.
Great, and now what I would like to do is to introduce to you the next speaker. Simon Saunders, Director of Emerging and Online Technology from Ofcom, who will give us his perspective on diversification and Sonic Labs. He's been a key part of the team of what we've been doing here. I've worked with him very closely for the past 6 months. So thank you for all your support and contribution to this, Simon. And I would like you to hand over to you. So Simon, if you could turn on your video and unmute yourself, and then I will hand over. So
thank you very much indeed, Paul. And good morning, everybody. I couldn't be happier to be joining you all at the launch of Sonic Labs this morning. So I look after emerging and online technology at Ofcom, which is, of course, the UK's independent communications regulator. And what I'd like to do is explain the relevance of Sonic Labs to our work. Now, as you've just heard our Chief Executive, Melanie Dawes, say, this is all about bringing innovation into our networks for the future. And being a regulator isn't only about making rules. In fact, our duties require us to have regard to encouraging innovation in the way that we regulate the communications sector. So, although it's not our role to pick winners or favor particular technologies, it is important in our role that we have a deep understanding of the availability of technologies which can enable better outcomes, to understand the choices and the constraints that those technologies place on operators and other deployers of network, and to play our role in actually enabling and encouraging innovation to the benefit of the people and the businesses of the UK. So we want operators to be able to choose from a really functional and innovative market for network equipment, so that yields benefits in the choice and the quality of the services that everybody gets to. And as such, we support the objectives of the government's 5G diversification strategy. And within that, in particular, we see that a diverse and healthy supply market is really helpful, especially when we think about those benefits through 4 lenses. So the first is of course security, and the opportunity for a wide community to scrutinize products can really drive improvements in security. And a healthy and diverse vendor market will give operators a wide range of options to meet their security needs. Secondly, of course, resilience. We need the networks work reliably, and single vendors could lead to points of failure. So having more vendors correspondingly should reduce that and reduce any sort of wider national dependency risks. Thirdly, really the commercial health of the market. If there's a healthy and competitive supply market, then those deploying networks can invest in a way that goes further in broadening and deepening access to those networks. And then fourthly, the innovation word. So if vendor markets are competitive, then the operators of the services, and hence the users, should benefit from increasingly innovative services, both new services and more efficiently and consistently delivered existing services. And the mobile market in particular has operators planning really quite major architectural changes over the coming years, including, of course, moves to 5G, to the software and cloud-based networks that Jeremy was talking about, to edge computing, to densification of networks through small cells, to the deployment of a wide range of private networks, and bringing new services that end-to-end work reliably. And for all of those architectural evolutions, the UK needs best-of-breed providers in every one of the specialist areas. So we've got at Ofcom an active work programme under our own initiative to get a full understanding of that landscape, including international liaison, policy analysis, economic analysis, and so on. And we think that all of those goals are facilitated by having open, interoperable standards. So we really need a strong and hands-on understanding of the state of play of those standards, the extent to which industry is supporting them in products that deliver on the UK's particular requirements, and doing that in an open fashion. Now, we can do that through talking to people, through talking to vendors and operators about their views, but we don't believe we can get the depth of that understanding by only doing that. We really do need to be hands-on to understand the technology warts and all. And when we realised that need, we also needed to deal with it quickly, to improve the quality of our advice to government and our own policy thinking. And we also needed to do it in a facility which was commercially neutral. So none of the existing facilities met our needs. So we embarked on the journey that yields fruit today in building Sonic Labs. And we set 3 objectives for Sonic Labs. The first was, as I say, to understand the standards and the industry ecosystem support for those standards in their evolving products. Secondly, to really send a signal to attract industry all over the world to come and participate in the UK ecosystem and help to really smooth a path from early stage innovation through to deployment in the wide scale in UK networks, whether they're public or private or shared networks. And thirdly, over time, to evaluate longer term and even more innovative technologies beyond the Open RAN that is the initial focus, such as some of the technologies that we published in our Technology Futures report back in January. And these span not just in mobile networks, but in fixed and optical, in broadcast and in online sectors as well. And given the name Sonic Labs, we wanted to move very fast and to make a noise, to let people know very widely and share the learnings quickly. And given that ask, we needed to find a delivery partner with a pretty rare set of skills. We needed deep technical expertise on building 5G networks, and the assets in terms of sites and backhaul and test equipment, and the sort of commercial neutrality that we were seeking. So really, Digital Catapult was very much the natural partner for us. And we set the joint team now across Digital Catapult and Ofcom really quite a challenge, which was to deploy no less than 3 Open RAN based 5G networks spread over 3 geographical locations in frankly not much more than 3 months, despite the challenges of the pandemic. And today's event is going to give you a chance to gauge the amazing progress in reaching that goal, and further than that, some of the lessons that we've already learned. And this is very much just the start. So I'm really grateful to the Minister Matt Warman and his colleagues at DCMS for co-funding Sonic Labs alongside Ofcom, to Joe Butler and his team at Digital Catapult for being the perfect delivery partner, for the vendors who we'll hear from that have come together to help us learn about the true state of the readiness of this technology, and to my wonderful team at Ofcom for the sort of inspiration and the willingness to come along on this frankly rather audacious journey. So thank you very much. Enjoy the day. Back to you, Paul.
Thank you very much, Simon. Thank you for that introduction to your perspectives on this. That was really helpful to hear. And if I can now, I'd like to introduce you to Joe Butler, CTO of Digital Catapult, to talk about his perspectives on this. And he, as Jeremy and Simon has both said, has been a key architect of this initiative that we're talking about. So, Joe, if I can call you to...
Yes.
Oh, you're here already.
I'm here. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Paul. It is great to be here with you all at our official opening of Sonic Labs today. It's really fantastic. So you're going to hear shortly about what we've done pulling together Sonic Labs so far between us at Digital Catapult and with Ofcom, and with the significant effort, as Simon said, on behalf of the vendors that we're working with so far. And that's great. We're doing a lot with Sonic Labs, and as Simon said, we're doing it quickly, and it's fantastic that the teams today are going to be able to describe some of what we've built here already and how to get involved. But this is very much the firing of the starting gun, and we intend to do more, and we're very focused on the future. So I thought I'd just say a quick word about that. From the start, we've built Sonic Labs to operate across multiple geographic sites, and with quite an ambitious approach in mind. We're planning already for this facility to have an indoor deployment, so a multi-radio indoor network in a public setting, hopefully with a large number of users, stretching the network, and with all that entails. Similarly, we intend to build an outdoor network deployment and to work with innovative providers and partners to achieve this. again, looking at potentially interesting deployment models. So this, we think, gives Sonic Labs a really interesting capability. It means we can support equipment from its journey from bench to laboratory, and then from laboratory to indoor and outdoor deployments in the real world, in the field situations. So from interoperability and integration testing through to understanding performance and issues in the field. This is really quite a unique capability. It enables us to construct, right now, for example, Open RAN chains with mature product offerings, or from vendors who we know work well together and whose products we know will integrate together into end-to-end offerings. But then alongside those sort of mature, stable end-to-end offerings, we're going to be able to bring in an earlier stage of maturity, products who on their journey through interoperability, integration testing, etc., enable them to switch their products into more established end-to-end chains. And so our intention here is to actually repeat everything you hear about today in terms of setting up Open RAN chains from a number of vendors, and our intention to look at swapping different elements from one chain into another. Our intention is to do that again and again with more products from more vendors, and hopefully new vendors who are entering the open networking ecosystem. So across a number of sites, a number of settings, different infrastructure setups, as Simon mentioned, in terms of hybrid and private cloud. So in doing so, as well as understanding and supporting interoperability and integration in this emerging market, we hope to bring together different ecosystems of vendors and service providers and players of different scale throughout the supply chain, and facilitate a vibrant market emerging for the UK here. So we'll be hosting virtual, and we really hope physical events at some point soon, with updates, demonstrations, etc. So supporting the journey from early stage products and vendors will help support a diverse market for integrated products that can be used by national operators here in the UK, of course. But we're also focused on private networks, national operators, private networks, enterprise deployments, industrial IoT, smart factories, supply chains, etc. The technology mix and the deployment and service offerings that are going to address these challenges and opportunities are really still evolving and emerging. So we expect Sonic Labs to play a role in innovation in that space, as well as interoperability. So finally, I'll just wrap up by saying I am super happy about being one of the founders of this initiative. We in the UK don't always have the largest resources compared to some others on the international stage. So it's really important that we're sensible, efficient, and targeted about our actions. We want to take steps to help support the potential market developments for the benefit of the UK. And I'm really hopeful this is the start of something that does exactly that. So I hope you enjoy the rest of this morning's session. Have a good day, and I'll hand you back to Paul.
Thanks, Joe, and thank you to all of the other speakers. So that wraps up the introductions, and next we will have DCMS. So we'll have Louise Sheridan from the Head of Operations and International Diversification Unit, who will discuss the importance of driving diversification and Open RAN across the UK and globally, and Sonics as part of that. So Louise, if I can ask you to unmute yourself and turn on your video, and then I will, oh, you there? Ah, yes, great. So let me hand over to you. So thank you very much, Louise, and over to you.
Thank you, Paul, and good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to attend the launch of Sonic Labs, and thank you to Digital Catapult, to Ofcom, and to the team who've organised the event. I'm extremely impressed at the seamless and smooth organization for today and the really impressive turnout. So huge credit to those involved in getting us here today. The number of people who are at this event testifies to the appetite for the work of Sonic Labs across the ecosystem and also in government. And I'd like to just give a brief perspective on where the work of Sonic Labs would be crucial in helping to drive the government's 5G supply chain diversification agenda, not only in the UK, but internationally. The ability and the need to continue to host virtual events like this, as we remain in the midst of a global pandemic, reaffirms our ever-increasing reliance on digital technologies for our work, for our personal lives, and to collaborate both across the UK and internationally. But the past year and a half has also shown that we must have confidence not only in the technologies that we use daily, but also in the digital infrastructure that underpins them. 5G and future generations of technology can bring enormous benefits to individuals, to companies, and to societies, but with that, they also bring risks. As such, it's really important that we can maximize benefits whilst ensuring that our telecom supply chains are secure and resilient. And that's why government published its 5G supply chain diversification strategy in November last year. The strategy sets out a targeted plan to ensure that we are never again dependent on a small number of suppliers and that our telecom supply chains are secure and resilient, but also that they are diverse and competitive. We have a real opportunity now to develop a thriving telecoms ecosystem that will create opportunities not only for existing suppliers, but also for new suppliers, and in so doing will drive economic growth across the UK. To help us to deliver, our strategy is backed by an initial 250 million to begin to implement priority measures and has 4 key objectives. The first is supporting our incumbent suppliers to ensure their continued presence in the UK market. The second is to attract new suppliers to build choice and resilience across UK networks. Thirdly, we want to accelerate the development and innovation of open and interoperable technologies as standard, and this will build competition, innovation, and diversity across the market. And finally, with a view to the future, we want to build UK capability in key areas across the technology supply chain. To help us to identify where government can best focus its efforts and to ensure that our strategy is fit for purpose for industry, we established the Diversification Task Force, an expert advisory panel, who would provide recommendations on how to best deliver the 4 objectives of our strategy. And we're continuously engaging with industry, with academia, and with organisations like Digital Catapult and UK 5G to achieve our shared goals of a more competitive and vibrant telecom supply market. The task force published its findings in April of this year, and one of its recommendations was to identify interventions and investment that would help to accelerate the development and adoption of Open RAN technology and would support research and development, testing and piloting of Open RAN-based components and solutions. And it's wonderful today to see Sonic Labs go live as a key part of our investment in levelling the playing field for R&D, to support testing of interoperability and integration of pre-commercial open networking solutions, starting with Open RAN. By fostering an open, disaggregated network ecosystem of both large and small suppliers, Sonic Labs will help to develop diverse supply chains across the telecoms technology stack. In so doing, it will also contribute to efforts to build UK capability and to enable UK companies to compete in a global supply chain and to gain a foothold in existing established markets. But again, with an eye to the future, there will also be huge potential for UK companies in emerging and future markets as they turn their attention to the security and resilience of their networks. The work of Sonic Labs will contribute to ensuring that the UK plays a leading role in shaping the future of Open RAN and future generations of technologies. And this, of course, includes in standard settings organisations. UK global leadership will be crucial in helping us to deliver the aims of the 5G diversification strategy. In our strategy, we outlined our intent to build international coalitions to find a lasting and sustainable solution to the problem, and we're working with other governments both bilaterally and multilaterally to achieve this. Most recently, we secured agreement through our G7 presidency to work together to promote secure, resilient, and diverse digital, telecoms, and ICT infrastructure supply chains, recognizing the importance of telecoms infrastructure to our wider digital agenda. We also considered how we as the G7 could work to encourage innovation and to actively explore the potential of emerging open and interoperable network architectures alongside our current technological offers. Examples of practical testing of Open RAN and the information, the expertise, and the capability that will be built through Sonic Labs will help us to shape discussions with our G7 partners and multilaterally, and will also be fundamental to driving bilateral partnerships with other countries. To name a few, this would include the US, Japan, and Australia. The UK was the first country to publish a 5G diversification strategy, and we're seen as leaders in this work. However, we cannot be complacent, and we must now ensure that alongside developing world-leading policy, we turn this policy into tangible R&D, testing, and applications. Our international partners are moving at pace on deployment of open interface technologies. For example, the US and Japan recently announced a partnership to advance secure and open 5G networks, including open radio access networks. It is therefore really important that the UK can work with such partners to drive diversification. And to do so, we need a thriving UK ecosystem that can work with other countries to share knowledge and best practice and identify opportunities for joint testing, investment, and R&D. Equally, it's important to note that we have seen caution from other countries about the use of Open RAN and interoperable solutions, as they are nascent and still somewhat untested technologies. It's true that work remains to be done to ensure the security, resilience, and efficiency of these solutions, and I see huge potential and opportunity for the work of Sonic Labs as it develops, and in collaboration with the wider UK ecosystem, to help us to shape conversations with other countries and to bring about perception change where necessary. And this would be achieved through knowledge and best practice sharing and through case studies of the companies and innovations that Sonic Labs will test and support. So if I have an ask of Sonic Labs today and of those of you on this call, it is to work with us to enable international collaborations to happen. This includes helping us to identify opportunities with other countries and how government might best help to support them. I've spent some time discussing how initiatives like Sonic Labs help the government to drive its objectives for a diverse telecom supply chain. But to finish, I just wanted to note that building UK capability and expertise and supporting innovators to market also enables government's wider ambition to become a cyber and science and technology superpower. Not only because it is vital that secure and resilient telecoms infrastructure underpins our cyber and our tech sectors, but also because we now have a real opportunity to develop a world-class innovative telecom sector alongside our tech and cyber sectors, and to help to support innovation from idea through to deployment. And we will achieve this by taking collective action to grow the market and to make it more competitive and more diverse. Events like today's provide a really excellent platform to highlight areas of common interest between industry, academia, and our international partners, where we can work together to make progress. I'm extremely excited to hear from other speakers and panel members today and to see the demos in action, and then to watching the work of Sonic Labs as it unfolds in the coming months. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you, Louise, for giving us that. It was really great to hear how the broader context for diversification and how Sonic fits into that. So if I can ask you to turn off your video, great, thank you. And then I will now, I am now delighted to welcome Matt Warman, Minister for Digital Infrastructure, who will say a few words. So if I can ask Matt Warman, if you could turn on your video and take yourself off mute. Great, thank you very much. And I will stop my video. So over to you.
Well, thank you. And it's a pleasure to be speaking to you all today at the launch of Sonic Labs Live. When the government published the 5G supply chain diversification strategy back in November last year, we set out an ambitious long-term vision for the market that challenges the status quo. And where the supply market today is characterized by consolidation and lock-in, we set out an intention to build a healthy market, one built on the principles of openness, competition, and innovation. And these principles are at the heart of our work to deliver on the diversification strategy and to support the resilience of the UK's telecoms networks. The government's commitment to accelerating the development and the deployment of open interface solutions such as Open RAN will require concentrated, targeted and sustained effort to move the dial and to make meaningful, enduring change. And this has meant working closely with industry to understand the barriers that smaller suppliers face when entering the market, as well as the high standards and the requirements that operators must hold their networks to ensure the world-class connectivity that UK consumers and businesses expect. It's also meant working closely with the Independent Telecoms Diversification Task Force, chaired by Lord Livingston. And the task force's findings and recommendations were published on the 20th of April on gov.uk, and having that concentrated expertise has been invaluable in testing our assumptions and helping us to develop genuinely targeted measures that will work for the UK. But of course, the UK can't do this alone. We're committed to leading a coordinated international approach to telecoms diversification, and this includes pursuing opportunities to collaborate on areas such as shaping standards for open and interoperable telecoms technologies, shared investment in R&D, and supporting scale opportunities for new market entrants. So this is why we chose telecoms diversification as one of our digital and technology priorities under the UK's G7 presidency, providing an early opportunity to begin these discussions in an established multilateral forum. And recognising the importance of this issue, the G7 agreed to collaborate to promote secure, resilient and diverse digital telecoms and ICT infrastructure supply chains in the declaration. This is a crucial first step, building international consensus on the issue, which we are continuing to drive forward with our international partners across government, across industry and civil society. Because if this pandemic has taught us anything, it's that reliable digital connectivity is the bedrock of our society. And 5G is unlocking deployment models, use cases, opportunities that we couldn't even have imagined a few years ago. But in order to take advantage fully of these opportunities, we need to have confidence in the security and the resilience of our critical national infrastructure. A resilient supply chain must be a competitive one, and multi-vendor deployments like Open RAN with truly swappable components will break down the vendor lock-in that the global market is used to and begin to realize the best-of-breed approach that Open RAN promises. Forward-thinking suppliers like yourselves will be leading the charge on this, and I look forward to seeing how the market and our expectations of it evolve. But nonetheless, it is important to remind ourselves that Open RAN is still a developing technology. It brings with it new challenges to security and resilience and to tried and tested commercial models. There is still work to be done before we can be confident that open deployments are as good as traditional ones. And this is why Sonic Labs is a critical piece of the puzzle when it comes to accelerating the availability of open interface technologies in a way that truly works for our networks. We know that the high cost of R&D is a major barrier to entry, and independent facilities like this help level the playing field. Suppliers get the opportunity to demonstrate their innovative vision, to test interoperability with other market players, and to collaborate with others to design end-to-end solutions. And operators that Sonic Labs has already demonstrated this gap in the market with before it's even opened its doors have been really important. The attention that Sonic Labs has got to date and the number and diversity of suppliers it's partnered with is a testament to the need the market has for this kind of initiative. But collaboration doesn't end on the testing floor. This launch is also a call to action for industry to come together to enrich the wider ecosystem, growing the pool of knowledge in Open RAN, both in the UK and globally. I had the chance to attend Sonic Labs at the Digital Catapult offices last week, and as you'll have seen, I hope from the videos, I saw a demonstration of the seamless interoperability of the multi-vendor architecture in action. So experiencing firsthand the tangible difference that government funding can make to innovation and to our critical national infrastructure never gets old, although of course the innovation itself is all yours rather than government's. Just as Open RAN is an enabler of our long-term vision for a healthy supply market, so Sonic Labs is an enabler of the creativity and collaboration that I hope will characterize the networks of the future. Though crucial, Sonic Labs is just part of the R&D that will be needed to support Open RAN development in the UK and diversify the supply market. As you know, my department is working at pace to design a holistic, targeted program of R&D that leverages the work that government and industry have done to date and addresses the key barriers to interoperable technologies. And of course, Sonic Labs sits within a wider 5G ecosystem that is thriving in the UK. Just 2 weeks ago, we had 5G Week, which demonstrated some of the amazing trials that are taking place right now across the UK, as well as providing a view of just how strong the UK 5G ecosystem is and how much it's grown over the past few years. 5G Create has been a great success. 15 projects taking place across the UK targeting key sectors, and the 5G Festival project announced their plans last month for the world's first 5G-powered immersive hybrid festival experience. It's a project that imagines the festival of the future when audiences and artists can gather and connect both in person and online, with 5G used to communicate the liveness of the experience wherever they are. Or there's the Liverpool 5G health and social care testbed, highlighting the barriers that digital poverty had on both care providers and residents who would benefit from technology in the home but didn't have access to affordable connectivity. So I've been really proud to hear during the COVID-19 pandemic, the project's push-to-talk device was offered to family carers through the Liverpool Carers Centre, where users felt particularly isolated and under great strain. They found the peer support invaluable during the lockdown. And of course, we're at a crucial stage as well in the development of the next generation of wireless infrastructure. Advanced networks will play an increasingly integral part of the UK's industrial policy and the growth agenda. As today's launch, I hope, demonstrates, we're already taking forward a wide range of work to place the UK at the forefront of the development, deployment, and adoption of secure and resilient telecoms networks, but there is a wider opportunity to influence the development and deployment of 5G and future networks to maximize the economic and social benefits for the UK. So that's why my department's developing a long-term strategy for development, deployment, and adoption of 5G and future networks in the UK, which will set out the government's aims for spectrum management, for mobile coverage, and for connectivity. I think there's real importance in articulating a clear vision for how advanced wireless infrastructure can become an integral part of the fabric of the UK's economy and society and make a really significant contribution to the government's growth and levelling up agenda. It's really fantastic to see so many parts of the telecoms industry represented today as part of that. And I really hope you've enjoyed that tour of what we're doing currently, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. And as I say, thank you ever so much for being here.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your kind words. Thank you for making time to be with us, and especially thank you for your support of the Sonic initiative that we're running through. That has been amazing, and we wouldn't obviously have got here without it. So we really appreciate that. And that wraps up the DCMS context for what we're doing. And now we move on to the technical presentations, where as Matt Warman was just saying, he attended and saw some demos last week. We have videos of the same demos, which we'll be showing to you later. But now what I would like to do is to introduce my colleague, Druid Kaleshi, who's the Director of 5G Technology at Digital Catapult. And he will give an overview of what we've done and yeah, give us, and I see you're already here, so over to you.
So thank you very much, Paul, and good morning all. The previous speakers already covered the strategic need, the positioning and the look into the future of the Sonic Labs is a very specific and quite unique intervention to help the innovation in open mobile networks in the UK. I'll be going a bit more in detail as to what we have currently done, what we have built and put in place, and what that capability, which will grow even further in the next phase, enables Sonic Labs to directly add value to the ecosystem. So if we look here, we are starting with an Open RAN because it is already reasonably well-defined technology with somewhat mature specifications, and the specifications are quite advanced. The implementation as well, partially so. But if we look at that space, the four key challenges for Open RAN, and admittedly not the only ones, but the top key ones for us, are the integration, operation, performance, and the security. If we look at the integration, that is a challenging space for any distributed system, but it is much more so in a multi-vendor distributed system. When we look at the operations and the deployability of the Open RAN networks as compared to the existing solid experience built over 3 decades in single vendor mobile network and single vendor RAN, particularly deployments, the operation is also a challenge. The performance challenge is reflected in sort of the existing trade-offs between the distribution of the functionality that Open RAN introduces and the multi-vendor aspect of that, and the performance at the all-important radio air interface. While we expect that the performance will definitely improve with time, understanding the trade-offs there is very, very important. Security is also a very well-discussed challenge for Open RAN, but it is typically so in any kind of distributed multi-vendor system. What Sonic Labs will do is that we will help directly with the integration challenge through interoperability testing. We will help people understand the operation and the deployment challenges in the field by introducing individual products or complete chains in a real world deployment. We also will look to help people experiment and showcase the current state of the art and also improvements as we go forward in performance. And we will coordinate with other UK initiatives, like, for example, UK telecommunication laboratories, on the security aspects and how we can bring them during the development stages of the products, and not to leave them at the time when they are going into testing with the operator labs. So here we have a classic architecture representation of the Open RAN, and I have kept it very, very simple and partially overlaid with a software view, and I have removed the MEC representation there. Whilst we know that radio access networks have always been driven towards a functional distribution, functional disaggregation, Open RAN takes that disaggregation further by expecting a multi-vendor supply of components, of individual components. And the main reason for us showing this is to explain why we are focusing primarily on interoperability as a technical lever to enable innovation in this space. If we look at this as a distributed multi-vendor software system, then things get significantly clear. The key challenge for setting up or for putting a system like this together is the cost and the time for the integration of the products. And that cost and time increases with multi-vendor distributed systems. So typically this is addressed, of course, by having standards and well-defined standards and internationally agreed standards. But standards implementation always needs to be tested, and it needs to be tested during the development stage. And that is why Sonic Labs is focusing particularly strongly and I would say unashamedly with a very strong technical approach and capability to the interoperability testing for mobile industry product developers of all sizes to support them during their development stages in what typically in innovation terms will be referred to as technology readiness levels 5 to 7. Interoperability testing, this has a kind of another side effect for us, because interoperability testing during the development stages of the products in an end-to-end system not only lowers the risk and cost of integration of products and gives greater confidence that things will work, but it also has an additional beneficial side effect, as I said, because the testing done in a commercially neutral collaborative environment, which Sonic Labs is, that the lessons learned out of that can be channeled to provide standardization input towards the implementability of the specification of the interfaces, and even more so when we move towards the management of those interfaces. So Sonic Labs here shows a product development journey. Sonic Labs has 3 components. It has a state-of-the-art technical facility built with a single purpose to provide end-to-end multi-vendor integration and interoperability testing in both lab and real-world field conditions, indoor and outdoor. And it is built and it is operated by industry experts that speak the same language as the people that will come and test their products during the development stages. And our existing, the vendors and the partners that we have worked with will be testimony to this. This technical platform will be operated in an open and in a collaborative and commercially neutral environments in order to help foster partnerships between vendors of all sizes, both within and outside of the existing vendor ecosystems, in order also to support new vendors and entrants into the market with operators and other network providers and partnerships, so that when to help us support people where products, individual products, be that an accelerator card, a radio unit, or software being part of the distribution unit or a centralized unit, are not as mature to enter the market immediately, but to help them to complete the journey so that they then can engage with industrial labs and operators of all forms and sizes. And this is not done in isolation, and that is the third component of the Sonic Labs activity, because it is designed to provide added value to an already good ecosystem of industry, innovation, and other stakeholders on vendor and operator labs, and also centers of excellence, both national and international, like the telecom infrastructure project, through the partnerships and the dissemination of knowledge. So without further ado, whilst we are positioning Sonic in this way, I want to go to what we have done, and Simon already touched on this. Some of you have been with us at the introduction to the Sonic Labs in February, when we set out our plans to have running systems in place. But this time, we have achieved that. We have achieved what we set out to do. We have deployed 3 fully operational end-to-end 5G Open RAN chains in 3 locations with 3 different deployment configurations, using products from 8 vendors and connecting them into a multi-core environment across Ofcom and Digital Catapult. What does that look like? So to achieve this, first of all, we have leveraged our existing network operations center from the 5G testbed of Digital Catapult. And on top of that, then we added 3 individual RAN environments or Open RAN environments to that. We're using products from Acceleran, Fluido, FNet, Benetel, Mavenir, Radisys, and Foxconn. We also have additional RUs, but they are not connected yet at the moment. The specific characteristics of these 3 chains deployments are, first of all, the 3 chains represent different levels of maturity, both of the products and also the end-to-end integration of those products. And this was used very much to give us an insight as to what adaptation is needed for the integration and interoperability tests, and how does that match to different levels of maturity of both individual products and the integration level. The absolute majority of the products are integrated in the Sonic Labs for the very first time. There are also, the second characteristic is that there are 3 different deployment modes across the 3 sites. So for example, the Acceleran, Fluido, FNet, and Benetel unit chain is deployed in Digital Catapult London, where we also have located the core network. The Raemis system is deployed remotely from the core network. So it's deployed in Ofcom Riverside House and in Brighton, whilst the Mavenir system also is deployed across the 3 sites, but also with a split, geographical split, between the centralized unit and the distribution unit in order to reflect a bit better on the realities of potential deployments. We also have a multi-core environment. In Digital Catapult, we have 4 5G cores available, although at this moment in time, we are using the Druid and the Raemis cores, but we have a capability to use more cores at this stage. And to make this a bit more tangible for those of you with a technical inclination, this is not just a set of power slides, as the minister said before. This is real, it exists, and this shows some photographs of the actual deployment of the beyond the data center of the Digital Catapults and the networking and the switching used for this across the 3 sites that we have. The Open RAN deployment, apart from, as I said, the firewall, the SDN switching infrastructure, and the compute core that we already had, consists of about 15 additional Dell servers and several radio units distributed over the 3 geographical sites. And just to give a bit further, this is here you can see an example of an end-to-end operational dashboard of one of these 5G runs. It is the Acceleran Fluido FNet and Benetel one, running at this moment in time an AR application. On the top right, you'll be seeing the Acceleran iDRAC dashboard showing 2 UEs, 2 mobile phones connected to the network. On the lower bottom right, you'll see the Druid core dashboard showing 2 handsets connected and with active ongoing user playing sessions. And on the left bottom side, you'll see 2 dynamic traffic tracing windows, one for the F1 interface and one for the NG interface, which also allow us to see the handshaking for the different operational procedures, like for example, the different session request and response functions. We have done all of this, and it has been built, but this is the baseline of the technical capability and leverages the existing expertise across the 2 teams. This work has been carried out hand in hand between the Sonic Labs teams, of course, Digital Catapult and Ofcom, but also with the integration teams from our vendors, which I will thank now and I will thank again later on. But I want to flag that it has not been a hands-off deployment. We haven't bought these systems and someone has installed. We have worked alongside with them because we did that because we wanted to learn a lot, and we have done so. It has also been a bit of fun, to be fair. But I must say a bit of fun most of the time. So when we look at the lessons learned, of course, we are aware of the current market position taken by the industry stakeholders, which gives an impression that existing products from all vendors, not just the ones that we have worked with, are fully interoperable now, using general purpose hardware and general software. However, we found that there was more work needed to get the systems up and running than we expected. As I said, most of the products that we integrated were integrated for the first time in Sonic. And that was true across the different technology readiness levels. On the other side, the need for the integration testing and work on hardware and the software parts of the Open RAN stack, technology stack, also indicates a lack of implementability maturation of the specification of the interfaces, moving from a baseline specification to more advanced features. And that typically gets more challenging, as you'd expect, from the core to the CU to the DU and further towards the radio. We also note that hardware and software, it's general purpose, but only up to a certain point. Only when things have been already confirmed and tested in spades, and because in particular under performance pressures. One of the biggest, not surprises, but one of the biggest positives on this was the integration to the 5G core was straightforward across the 3 chains, which was very, very pleasant for us, especially because we were running to a deadline. And the final point that we want to make was the absolute, we understood, and this is something that was reflected with our industry partners, the absolute importance of an ability to do end-to-end integration testing of products even during their development stage. So not to do units to units testing and integration, but to place those units in a full end-to-end system during the development stage, and the need to have a very strong state-of-the-art test and measurement capability to support this in this space, which is something that we will be building in Sonics. We have started to build and we'll make it stronger later on, and it is one of our offers to the ecosystem. And this takes me now to the penultimate slide for me. Speaking of the ecosystem, Sonic Labs is not alone. We have started the journey and we have engaged with many stakeholders in the ecosystem, including many of the people that have joined us today and in the previous event and in speaking to us in between. Of course, it's a very broad ecosystem, but our role as Sonic Labs will be focusing on integration and interoperability, but the mission is to directly add value to the ecosystem by interacting and working and aligning with other initiatives of the stakeholders shown there, from the telecom infrastructure labs, projects, to UKTL, to industry labs like the Mavenir Center of Excellence, the NSE Center of Excellence, and others, in order to identify the opportunities and to make companies and product developers readier to engage with the industry at the technology readiness 8 or 9 level, which is ready. And a key element of this engagement is the dissemination of knowledge and the maturing and curating where it is possible and useful for the ecosystem into the standardization process. So without further ado, and thank you very much, this covers very, very briefly as to what we have done. It will not come as a surprise to you. I'm sure to say that we are very, very pleased to be able to stand in front of you today and to say that Sonic Labs are operational in an amazingly short period of time. And for that, of course, thanks to a very talented team at Digital Catapult and Ofcom for the incredible hard work and dedication, and everyone that does these kind of things understands that, but also to the partners that worked with us in an extremely open and collaborative way across all of the time that we put the system together, as well as for DCMS for putting the funding and the trust to us to do this. You'll hear shortly from Simon Burley from Ofcom about what our immediate and longer term next steps will be now that we have this capability. So moving into the swappability testing. However, as with great regret, we have not been able to welcome and host you physically in person in Sonic Labs premises. Of course, you are welcome to come and visit us at any time to see the capabilities in action. We have thought to put together a couple of short videos that take you through more specifically to what we have done. We'll post online today some full-length videos of the 3 chains in action, the demonstrations, but to maintain the dynamism of the event, we'll be playing to you some shorter examples of those videos. The first one is an end-to-end demonstration of an AR application using a 5G network running over the Acceleran Fluido FNet Benetel chain. And with this, I leave you with thanks for listening and trying to stop the sharing. With thanks for listening, and I pass back to Emma to play the video.
This application, developed by Mativision, is an AR application that is solving the problem of delivering immersive content to groups of users. In the case of the touristic application, the tour guide can point out specific details of the video, and the users can comment and ask questions to the guide, or discuss what they see between themselves as they are all watching the same thing at the same time.
We have deliberately chosen these applications to show that they're working in the same way over a monolithic 5G RAN and on a disaggregated multi-vendor 5G Open RAN solution in Sonic Labs. This is with an end-to-end capability set up only in the past 6 months and across multiple geographies.
One of the 3 Open RAN systems in the Sonic Lab is a 4-vendor RAN system which is integrated by Accelleron in a 5G standalone end-to-end network solution. It captures the true essence of Open RAN opportunity at the development stages of the products, with a very interesting FAPI interface in addition to the defined Open RAN interfaces. This Open RAN system is shown here. The centralized unit and the RIC functions are offered by Accelleron. The DU, the distributed unit function, is delivered by FNet, who has integrated with Fluido's upper PHY over the FAPI interface, and the radio unit by Benetel, making this the most diverse chain in the Sonic Labs. The Open RAN system as a whole is connected to Druid 5G SA core, over which the application you just saw is being run. The system is fully operational, and here we are looking at the system operational dashboards.
It has been exciting to set up this fully functional end-to-end Open RAN system across Digital Catapult and Ofcom sites. The process has highlighted integration and interoperability challenges across the way. Requirement for low latency Linux kernels as opposed to ones that ship with major Linux distributions. Different configurations of network interface cards and accelerators. There has been an excellent value for Sonic and our partners, identifying interoperability and integration challenges as a team. The process has already shown the value added by the state-of-the-art Interoperability Center, helping identifying and resolving interoperability issues. After this launch event, the following steps will be to do a swappability test across all 3 operational Open RAN chains and perform end-to-end performance testing.
Thank you very much, Dritin, for your presentation, and also thank you to the whole team for putting together that video and doing the demonstration. I think that gave a bit of an overview. We've got another one coming, so it gave you a bit of an overview of what we've done. Now, I would like to introduce you to Simon Burley, Principal of Emerging Technology at Ofcom, who will, as Dritin mentioned, he will give his perspective and also talk a little bit about some of the integration and experimentation that we've been doing and the testing through this. So Simon, if I can call you to unmute yourself, turn your video on, great. I will turn myself off. Now, so Simon, I'm going to run these slides for you. So if you can let me know when you want to go on to the next one.
Sure, if you can move to the next slide, please, Paul. Thank you very much, Paul. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Simon Burley, and I'm here representing the Emerging Technology team here within Ofcom. Today, I'm going to take you through some of the implementation details and the experimentation we are going to be undertaking in this first phase of the Sonic Labs. I'll also outline some of the areas that we'll be developing going forward now that the Sonic Labs are open. If you could move to the next slide, please, Paul. So before delving into the technical details, it is worth just spending a few moments once again to reflect on why we are building this capability. It's already been discussed this morning, you know, the challenges that have been faced with supply consolidation within the RAN equipment market, and by virtue of the government intervention that requires the complete removal of high-risk vendor equipment from the UK's 5G networks. This then led to the publication of the diversification strategy back in November of last year. Now, the supply consolidation and diversification strategy, as Simon Saunders mentioned earlier on, has triggered a comprehensive programme of work within Ofcom. And here we are developing the analysis and working with industry, government and key stakeholders to improve vendor diversity and encourage the development of open interoperable systems. Now, this programme of work encompasses technology standards, security, policy, and international and economics. And we are addressing each of these areas by considering the impact on competition, innovation, resilience, and security. A key strand, of course, that runs throughout this programme is bringing together those insights and learnings from a range of testbed and trials activities. And this brings us to why we are here today, marking the launch of Sonic Labs. Sonic Labs will inform our understanding on the maturity of technologies like Open RAN, and moreover, it will play a leading role in helping find solutions to the supply chain diversification challenge that we face. Next slide, please, Paul. Now, we've already seen that the Sonic Labs are deployed across 3 locations. Digital Catapult will be hosting 2 labs. One of those is based in London, the other in Brighton, while we in Ofcom will have a facility at our Riverside House office in London. A total of 6 chains will be used during this phase of the programme, 4 of which will be hosted by Digital Catapult and 2 hosted by Ofcom. In this chart, we depict the various elements, how the various elements will be initially deployed and have indeed actually been deployed. However, during the experimentation and validation work, we will look at a range of geographic deployment options. The key message here is that by virtue of developing a capability of this nature, we'll be able to experience firsthand the integration and deployment challenges that network providers may face when building networks based on open and interoperable interfaces. We'll move on to the next slide, please, Paul. Now the Sonic Labs are open, we can start our journey to experience the process of system integration. And indeed, by virtue of commissioning our first deployments, we already have a number of key learnings. We intend to examine a range of scenarios where the mix of suppliers, where we will mix the existing suppliers between the chains, and this can be illustrated through the simple representation on the left-hand side of this chart. Here, the colours represent the suppliers, and the shapes represent the particular network elements within each chain. And as we go through this process, we'll be able to we'll go through this process of mixing the suppliers, and we'll also be adding new suppliers that are not necessarily part of an end-to-end ecosystem that is already sort of deployed widely in many operators' networks. And as we go through this process, we'll be finding the methodology and the processes for onboarding our new suppliers to the facility in order to ensure that we can onboard them efficiently, and also they take them through the range of interoperability and integration tests that we know will sort of flex the system and be able to obtain those key learnings. We'd also note that integration and interoperability is not necessarily limited to verifying the interconnection of the different Open RAN subsystems. Indeed, as Dritten highlighted earlier, our first learnings highlight that the choice in general purpose hardware is very important and should not necessarily expect things to work straight out of the box. It is therefore necessary to validate the interoperability, but also the compatibility of elements such as network interface cards, accelerator cards, operating system versions, Linux kernels, etc. And of course, during this process as well, it's also important to note that the encouraging interactions that we've seen to date between the suppliers, and this is exactly what we want to see develop further. Indeed, we want to create an environment where partnerships among vendors, among innovators and new entrants can be forged and help grow the ecosystem. Finally, we're also building a capability where, in terms of the test and measurement capability that we have within Sonic Labs as well. Here we have already invested in industry standard equipment, but it is an area we're continuing to grow in order to build a test house quality instrumentation capability. In parallel to this, again, we'll also be developing the methodologies and the processes to efficiently capture and disseminate our learnings, and I'll touch upon that in the next slide. So could we move to the next slide, please, Paul? So first phase of the Sonic Labs really is about doing those interoperability and integration test scenarios. And we'll be building up those learnings, and we'll be publishing our findings and the lessons learned later on this year, in the autumn actually of this year. But we're already starting to plan out the second phase of the Sonic Labs capability as well. So here we are looking to grow the pipeline of suppliers entering the Sonic Labs. We should also note that that the initial deployments that we have currently built are based on a 5G standalone architecture. But we'll be developing this further to extend that to include a 4G, 5G non-standalone architecture, along with building an outdoor capability as well. Of course, during all of this, we'll also be developing use cases and deployment scenarios that are relevant for proving the capabilities of Open RAN to make sure that it we can demonstrate the capabilities to network providers so that they can understand exactly the capabilities of what open and interoperable networking-based solutions can provide. And of course, as Simon also mentioned in his introduction, we'll be looking to go beyond Open RAN as well during the course of the Sonic Labs program, where we'll be introducing the other domains covering fixed, core, and transport, along with other emerging technologies. Can you move to the next slide, please, Paul? So I should also add that the Sonic Labs actually forms a broader capability that we are developing here within Ofcom. And here we'll be building a new media lab experience that will encompass some of the emerging technologies and capabilities that were documented in our Technology Futures report that was published earlier on during the course of this year. So when you come and join the Sonic Labs, this is all part of the experience that you'll also be able to participate in. So please do come and join us to explore how Sonic Labs can help emerging technologies become a reality. Now at this point, I would like to say thank you very much for listening. And I think we now move on to our next video that includes Raemis and Mavenir. And of course, our colleagues from both Digital Catapult and Ofcom will be in action as well, playing with the system. So can we please play the next video, please?
One of the 3 Open RAN systems here in the Sonic Labs is a 2-vendor system integrated by Raemis in an end-to-end 5G network solution. The system is geographically distributed among 3 sites, namely Digital Catapult London, Brighton, and Ofcom Riverside House. The Network Operations Center, where our 5G core network is running, is hosted at Digital Catapult London. The Open RAN network elements are hosted in Brighton and Ofcom Riverside House. The centralized and distributed units were developed by Raemis. The radio unit was developed by Foxconn. The Open RAN system is connected to one of our 4 5G core networks, and in this instance, we are using the Raemis 5G core network. Over which the BBC application you've just seen was running. The system is fully operational and allows us to investigate and test interoperability at different interfaces. Here we can see the different consoles of the fully operational end-to-end system. Building this capability in the Sonic Labs has been truly insightful, both in terms of the integration steps and the challenges faced to get the system up and running. This process has highlighted several integration learnings along the way. For example, the need for cryptographic cards in order to support over-the-air authentication of user equipment, the need for FPGA accelerator cards in order to support larger bandwidths, the requirement for the allocation and assignment of specific CPU cores and NUMA nodes in order to run the CU and DU processes. This, together with the other 2 Open RAN chains in the Sonic Labs, creates a unique capability in the UK to move to the next steps supporting disaggregated supply chains. We will continue with our interoperability testing by swapping different vendors of the Open RAN components. For example, swapping the Foxconn radio unit with another RU vendor, swapping the Raemis centralized unit with an Acceleran centralized unit, and swapping the 5G core network.
The novelty here is that we are leveraging just-in-time rendering, so you can build the view from wherever you are in location. It leverages specific capabilities of a 5G network, support for network edge computation, higher speed, and lower latency. When you start the application, you scan one of the images and you time travel to that period. The video Windows and backend server are hosted on our local edge infrastructure and are streamed over the 5G network to your device. This very interactive use case is now running over our 5G standalone network hosted by Mavenir.
Is the two-vendor RAN system integrated with Mavenir in a 5G standalone network solution. Here we can see Mavenir RAN intelligence system. RIC plays a key role in RAN deployment. Building on the concept of self-organizing network SON, RIC goes further by opening the door to a wide range of modern machine learning-based algorithms.
The centralized unit, distributed unit, and RIC functions are developed by Mavenir. The solution is fully containerized and developed in our network operations system to meet Sonic Labs' specific use case requirements. Here we are looking at some user equipment activities and G-Node-B status in the running system across the Open RAN and 5G core. User equipment has attached in our end-to-end Open RAN system and the slice in which the user equipment is operating.
The centralized management system MCMS is a platform to manage Mavenir solutions. The MCMS provides alarm management, filtering, searching, and manual clearing. You can see some traffic traces in the running system across the Open RAN components and the 5G core network interfaces.
Both the synchronization signal block and the spectrum configurations are in order. This has been done for a 40 MHz bandwidth TDD system. This is a very exciting start for us, and we will be expanding our testing capability using cutting-edge test and measurement equipment. We will refine our testing methodologies and scenarios to explore the interoperability of ORAN vendors, as well as evaluate the performance limits of the 5G key functions such as MIMO and beamforming.
Great, thank you to Simon, and also thank you to the whole team for putting together that demonstration. That was a quick summary. We've got longer videos which describe in more detail, kind of more end-to-end stories. Those, I believe, are already published on the Digital Catapult YouTube, but we'll be sharing the details as part of the follow-up. And there's a few other bits of content in there from the work we've been doing over the past week to record these demos. As Tristan said, we would have liked to have had you here to see them in person, but this hopefully is the next best thing, and it probably gives you actually a pretty good summary of it. As you see, it is real world. We've got real things happening in terms of as you saw, consoles and so on, real engineering. Now it's time to move on to the panel discussion, discussing the challenges and opportunities associated with deployment and integration of multi-vendor Open RAN chains. And I would now like to introduce Evie Ioannidis, from DCMS, Senior Interoperability and R&D Lead. So Evie, if you can turn on your, here you are, great. And now I will hand over to yourself to introduce the rest of the panelists. So I'll stop my video.
Fantastic. Thanks, Paul. And hello all, and thank you very much for having me. As Paul said, I'm Evie Ioannidis, Senior Interoperability and R&D Lead at DCMS in the Diversification Unit. As other DCMS speakers have said today, Sonic Labs is just such an integral part of our investment in R&D for diversification. So I'm very pleased to be here at the launch. So I would like to introduce our panel members now. I will say your name. When I say your name, please unmute yourself, and turn on your camera, and briefly say who you are, who you represent, and I will start with Dritten.
Hello, good morning. You already know me. I'm Druid, Director of Technology for 5G at Digital Catapult, and I lead the technical work in 5G.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Federico?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Federico Boccardi. I'm part of the Ofcom Technology Group, and I'm the Program Director for the Emerging Technology Program, which is that area of Ofcom that is looking to emerging technologies having an impact in the medium to long term, including our works in Sonic.
Fantastic.
Thank you
very much. I'm now going to move on to the kind of suppliers on our panel as well. So when you introduce yourselves, if you could also very briefly say kind of what your role is in Sonic and what kind of involvement you've had to date as well. So if I could hear from Natasha.
Hi, good morning, everybody. This is Natasha Tamaskar. I'm responsible for business strategy and global marketing within Raemis. So for those of you who are not familiar with Raemis as a company, we are a leading provider of open telecom solutions. We are based out of United States. We are also a wholly owned subsidiary of Reliance Industries. We have a fairly diverse portfolio, starting from digital endpoints to open and disaggregated solutions, whether they are for fixed or mobile networks. And we also have digital endpoints and digital engagement platforms. We have been involved in the Open RAN industry for a very long time. We have a very rich ecosystem of OEM and ODM partners that bring our solutions to the market. And we are also involved in a lot of the standards bodies that are working in this particular space. So it's really interesting to see what Sonic Lab has done in putting together this very complex lab, which can give us the opportunity to participate in really real world like scenarios for interoperability. Specifically for the Sonic Labs, we have contributed our CU, our DU, and our 5G core network. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And if I could bring in Arno.
Yeah, good morning, everyone, and thanks for having me. So I'm Arno Bolser. I'm looking at sales and business development for Acceleran. So for those of you who don't have the chance to know yet Acceleran, short word of introduction. So Acceleran is a provider of Open RAN cloud-native software solutions. We are focusing on the CU, the central unit, and the RIC components, so the RAN intelligent controller. So we've been founded in 2013, and we are headquartered in Belgium. As part of the Sonic Lab, we've been playing two roles. I mean, we've been providing our CU and RIC to one of the chain that were presented today. But we've also played the role of integrator of the widest multi-vendor chain of the Digital Catapult Lab, integrating partners like FNet, Fluido, and Benetel to create a truly multi-vendor Open RAN chain. So also interesting to note from an Acceleran standpoint is that we are obviously very active on the MNO front, on the Open RAN and ORAN front. But we're also trying to bring that technology to the enterprise, and enterprise is a key element for us also to try and apply Open RAN to the private server market and make the benefit understood to enterprise and integrators active in that market.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And Stefano.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. My name is Stefano Cantarelli, and I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Mavenir. Mavenir is an international company, and we are based out of the US, but we have a significant investment in the UK, where we have not only R&D offices, Center of Excellence, and some of our headquarters for the EMEA region. What I wanted to say is Mavenir is a quite recognized brand in the telecom. Our vision is one network, any cloud, all software. We have really been the first to introduce virtualization in the telecom space, and we have been supporting the Open RAN concept for quite a long time. Mavenir is spanning as the only industry end-to-end cloud-native network software provider. We span from radio unit to CU, DU, RIC, management system, core, 4G, 5G, SA, NSA, and the origin for us is used to be voice over Wi-Fi, voice over VoLTE, and so on. The vision that we have is building the future of networks, focusing on a single software-based automated network that runs on any cloud. That's really for us it's key, because we believe all these technologies are aimed to simplify life and to make things cost-effective. We are transforming the way work connects, and we're realizing new services and the promises of 5G beyond. Last thing I would say is that we have worked a lot and collaborate with the UK government and all the different sectors to define the best diversification strategy for telecom. And I think to be able to participate into this Sonic Lab program has been an honor for us.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, all. Stefano, if I stay with you for this question, you know, you mentioned your Centre of Excellence, and you know, all of you have been looking at Open RAN for many years. You'll have your own kind of testing facilities. You'll be using different labs. What does Sonic Labs do that is additional to other initiatives and activities? And you know, how does Sonic Labs interface with those other initiatives, whether those are in the UK or even internationally?
Well, first, let me say an important thing is Sonic as an innovative and open environment represent exactly the same vision that we have. So we exactly think that innovative and open is a key component, because we think that only openness and competition brings innovation. When you have an environment which is not open and doesn't have competition, then there's very little innovation. Innovation runs fast. And the demonstration has been that despite, virtualization has been in telecom for a relatively long time, but only today it came up with people who come from a completely different sectors or from a completely different background than from the traditional legacy telco world. And the other things is very important is that in the Sonic Lab, what we have noticed is, of course, interfacing with the people and the team at Sonic has been very easy, because as I think Dritten has mentioned that before, you know, they speak the same language, they got the expertise, and we have been able to actually quickly come up and turn around when there were maybe some challenges or some configurations issues and things like that, that as usual comes out always when the time is so quick and so pressing. The difference in this lab compared to others we have seen, where there is always a huge focus on functionalities, the big focus here is being on interoperability and operational capabilities, which I know they always, to some extension, lack behind functionality, because if we think of a traditional approach, one of the big issues where the traditional approach failed is about interoperability on the operational aspect. And so from that point of view, I think that's a real big value. Will give us the possibility to interoperate maybe with some elements that were not even seen before in a very simple, smooth, and straight away. So that's really a big difference, which, in my opinion, it really makes it unique, and it makes it really worthwhile actually to be inside it.
Fantastic, thank you. And I mean, you know, how it will be really interesting to kind of hear from the others as well. And, you know, Natasha, for example, how have you, what have you gained from your experience in Sonic Labs as radiocysts, and what's different about that collaborative environment?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. You know, one of the things that we have seen is that typically we would be testing our solutions in our labs or with our partners with an ecosystem that is well established. One big difference that we see with Sonic is, of course, we had this distributed multi-geo solution, which really mimics a real world scenario in a way that you cannot really replicate in your own labs. What that does is it uncovers things that we had not thought of before, in the sense that in our own labs, we would probably connect things in exactly the same way, or even in certain, plug fests and etc., things are connected in the same way. But here you start uncovering things like data path interoperability issues, because here you're seeing a real scenario where you're connecting to maybe the core network or the radios. In between, there are switches, there are firewalls, VLANs, etc. And these, when they are arranged in different ways, will uncover different types of issues. The other thing which is really interesting is that as you start growing that ecosystem and start testing with other players in the ecosystem, you start uncovering some interesting things which you had not anticipated. In one of the instances, I would say, is that what about interpretation of the standards itself? You could interpret it in a certain way and somebody else interprets it in a different way. And you only find out when you start doing interoperability testing in these environments that something is off. So I think these are some of the main things that we see here.
Fantastic, thank you. Yeah, it's always very interesting to kind of see how those differences play out. And Arno, I'd like to bring you in as well and kind of hear from you in terms of your experience from the Acceleran point of view as well.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think a lot of good points have been made already, and kind of concur with a lot of the elements that Natasha brought up. I think for Acceleran, I think on top of that, I will also say that when we first met with Dritten and the team, I think this was really a very good match, because I think there was a lot of common goal that we were sharing as as a smaller player, as a component player, which is really let's say moving into a truly disaggregated and open RAN, right? So I think in comparison to other companies, I mean, we don't have the full portfolio that covers the full span of functionality of open RAN. So I think it's also interesting for us to be brought to the table, right, and to show real disaggregation and real interoperability with a multi-vendor type of environment, right? So I think that's really a key element, and I think what we have achieved so far is the first step, and I'm really looking forward to the next step, which is really swapping these different elements and really showing the true interoperability with other vendors here around the table, and to really show the benefit of Open RAN in practice. So that's quite important for us, and the fact that let's say Digital Catapult and Sonic brought to the table smaller player that foster innovation and come with new ideas and really get to more visibility and to more knowledge transfer, I think is really important for companies like Acceleran. And I would also say, I mean, kind of echoing what Natasha said, I think the aspect of coming into a real life environment is really key, because you always uncover things that you have not seen in the lab, even if you have done pre-integration with certain partners. I think here you really get start from scratch, deploying with a real target customer, right? And uncovering things like, how do you deploy? I mean, I would say even knowledge transfer aspects, right? I mean, we are kind of playing with this technology on a daily basis, but let's say when you go to an operator, there's a strong aspect of knowledge transfer and making sure they onboard these new technologies, and how can you do that efficiently is also a key element in this journey.
No, brilliant, thank you. And turning now to that Dritten and the team and the kind of Sonic side, you've heard from the industry panelists about how the vision that you now created is kind of enabling, maybe I'm putting words in people's mouths, but pushing people into outside of their comfort zone when it comes to testing, and testing in environments which they may not have done independently. But is that kind of what you imagined? What did you imagine Sonic Labs doing that would be additional to what you kind of saw in the ecosystem already? I will start with Dritten. Go ahead. You're on mute.
Yes, always caught by that. from our perspective, we always started with a view. So discussions with Simon, with Joe, with Federico, and Paul. We had always this view that there is a need to have the ability somewhere closer to the regulator and to the government to be able to look under the hood, but not with a view of coming from my previous academic background, not a peer review and critical, but a peer assist, i.e. working alongside with the companies in an environment where genuinely there is an openness and collaboration in the pre-competitive space. From the lessons learned, as Arno said, that there was quite very specific things that came through that. Typically, those are kind of integration issues. So understanding, for example, that a particular interface card did not work in a certain deployment, notwithstanding that we went through a very specific, detailed low-level design of the system that you'd expect from every engineering team in partnership with the system integrators that we have in the panel. So, but beyond that, linking back to what Natasha said, that there is this sense that in this collaborative environment, when people are exposed outside of their more closely integration ecosystems that both Natasha and Arno mentioned, then there is a bit of a different interpretation, almost a different look at the world of the standards, and picking that up to take it forward is probably one of the biggest things that we kind of validated through the current work with the partners.
Thank you. And I mean, Federico, does that sound like a similar thing? Does that echo?
Very similar. Even I want just to emphasize for us the important thing, and one of the main aims that we had since the beginning was really for Sony to be open and to be commercially neutral in a way that also smaller new companies could enter. And maybe that's another difference with respect to other labs. And even if they didn't have an end-to-end solution already, could test their products with other products in a full chain, really in a way for them to be exposed, for small and new players to be exposed as well. And we have already learned a lot since already day zero, as Dritan and someone barely mentioned in the presentation today.
What I might also want to add, time permitting, is that kind of the Sonic Labs, because I see and I reflect on some of the questions in some of the questions. We're doing our best to answer all of the questions that we can time-wise, but some questions, Sonic Labs, and then both Stefano and Natasha and Arno picked up on that. There are already parallel initiatives, industry initiatives, both commercial labs, as you mentioned, and they are focused, and that innovation is the thing that has given us this global industry that underpins all of our life. So that will continue. In Sonic, we are working very closely with the other labs, both with Mavenir Center of Excellence, in discussions with the NEC Center of Excellence in the UK, with the Telecom Infrastructure Lab, as well as, of course, with other government initiatives like UKTL, so that the idea is to everyone in this particular ecosystem to come together almost off pieces of the jigsaw to create a big picture. And the gap for Sonic is specifically in helping companies during that development stage so that they can become a bit readier when they can engage with the industry for adoption and potentially certification later on.
Evie, sorry, if I can just add one point to complement what Dritan said, is the international aspect that is very important for us, not only to be very well connected in the UK, but also to be connected with other organizations outside the UK, just because diversification is a global challenge. We want to be connected with other organizations, but it's not only Open RAN. Looking beyond Open RAN and what Sonic Labs could do in the longer term, we're really connecting to other labs in Europe, in the US, in other countries, looking at the impact of emerging technologies and how we could bring them into the Sonic Labs.
Yeah, Brilliant. That was one of the questions that I was going to pick up on around kind of whether Sonic Labs has any intention to connect with other facilities, which obviously you do, and what it's doing to date. But that's incredibly helpful to hear. I mean, obviously the kind of Open RAN ecosystem is developing at pace, both in the UK and internationally. And some operators are already building Open RAN networks. So what more is there to do for Open RAN to be more widely deployed? What would it take to accelerate the deployment of that kind of multi-vendor solution in the UK, but also more generally? If I could bring in some of the industry panelists as well, shall we start with Arno?
I think that's a very good question indeed. I think, as you say, I mean, there's been already some early deployments of Open RAN, and let's say we can see that in the press. I think there's certainly further trigger elements that will help while spreading this. Obviously, this type of initiative is obviously a key one. Just to demystify further what is Open RAN, the benefits and the interoperability, right? Just to disseminate knowledge about let's say the challenges and the key elements and the benefits that you see in Open RAN. So I think that's quite key. Another element I think is also to widen a bit the fact that Open RAN is not only for mobile operators, but can also bring benefit to the enterprise world, right? And I think there's certainly a very strong ecosystem of integrators that are willing to offer private networks to the enterprises. And I think we also need to find a way to better do knowledge transfer to these integrators who could bring that technology to let's say a wider forum than only the operator. So I think that's a key element for a wider adoption, and I think they will also benefit from that diversification of supply. So I think those are, to me, certainly not exhaustive list, but some of the key elements that I see.
Brilliant, thank you. And Stefano, how do you feel about that kind of vision?
Yeah, I mean, this, you know that we have been involved in some of this deployment, Asia, Europe, US, and we have seen different scenarios. I think the main thing, of course, is to continue to deploy and innovate. I mean, that's the first important component. The second one is, I have heard a lot about, maturity. I don't think it's much about technology maturity. We have seen things like, for example, there's been a big debate about massive MIMO, whether massive MIMO could have been supported by Open RAN. That was clearly a diversification point from some legacy vendor. We have demonstrated as Mavenir with recent announcement that massive MIMO works perfectly with Open RAN. So what really needs to happen is a change in the mindset in the way we deploy network. We need to embrace a new way to deploy broadband networks. It cannot be just in the way we have deployed 3G and 4G as an extension of 3G, and maybe as we're doing today, just 5G as more frequencies where 4G cell grid are. We need to think that 5G is different. 5G means densification for coverage, means to provide a real broadband experience with lower latency. And clearly, in some cases, is a bit more difficult for legacy in the brownfield networks, where they have to integrate with the legacy, versus greenfield, where we as a Mavenir, of course, we have also tried to address that by having a 2G and a 3G stack upon Open RAN. What is important is that Open RAN is not a technology, but it's just an open and interoperable interface. And you have raised the point that sometimes interfaces are not interoperable because there could be different interpretations. So the role of the standards and the organization like ORAN is to define something which is as much as possible unambiguous. I wanted to finish this comment by surely embracing what Arno said. We think that private network will have a much more open mindset to Open RAN and virtualization technology. So we think they will give a very strong push in that direction, also because they have no legacy. So from that point of view, it's definitely easier. And the last thing that is really in the hands of governments and specifically in the UK, and I'm so pleased I've heard so many people that seems to be so knowledgeable and interested in Open RAN and virtualization. That really makes me so proud of being in this industry. But government needs to continue to lead in defining policies and pushing for open networks, open 5G network. That's fundamental, because in this way, we pave the way to a real open and competing world.
No, absolutely noted. I don't think it's going anywhere soon. So it's very much kind of part of what my team is doing for sure. Natasha, I saw you nodding along there, and I'd like to bring you in on kind of what you think is needed still to go, whether it's kind of on the commercial side, the technical side, combination of everything.
Yeah, so I think I was nodding because I do agree with what Stefano and others were saying. And it is, you know, there's one side where there is a perception in the industry that there's a lot of complexity in these type of solutions. Now you've disaggregated the RAN, but who is going to put it back together? You know, can it be put together? So that's one thing. The second thing is, I think we still haven't really seen any volume deployments. And I think the industry confidence comes in when you get to that point that there are deployments that are happening in large volumes. The other thing I feel is that, you know, these are early days. We still need to be able to prove out whether this, you know, open compute or general purpose solutions, are they fit for business? You know, and I think once you start getting to volume deployments, you can start proving them out and say, okay, yes, this actually does work, not just in a, you know, smaller lab-like scenarios, but larger live scenarios, right? And especially as newer and newer applications come in, this becomes very critical. With 5G, we are talking about these latency sensitive applications that are going to be leveraging these networks. Will it all work as it comes together? So I think some of these things need to be worked on, and I think they are being worked on, and I think it's just a natural progression within the markets. But also to what Stefano was saying, I think there is also a need in the industry for education. There is, again, some of the perception is correct because these are early days within the market. However, there is also a lot of FUD within the market where things that are cited as not working actually do work perfectly well. And I think just as we start seeing more deployments, we'll start seeing, you know, people's confidence automatically start increasing there.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Yes, I mean, it's both positive that you know, as a DCMS representative, we've kind of heard all of these things before, but also it is just to show that there's so much going on, and there's so much still to do, and so much that's already been done, actually, which is one of the great things that has come out of this conversation. With all of that in mind, and all of that kind of industry activity that's happening, I'd like to ask you, Federico, why is Ofcom involved in Sonic Labs, and what are you kind of getting out of focusing on Open RAN in this way as the regulator?
Sure, Evie. So it's clear that there is a limited choice of vendors in the UK, and as emphasized by the government in the 5G supply chain diversification strategy, there are 3 pillars, and Open RAN is one of them, or part of one of them. So why Ofcom? Ofcom wants that innovative services are available for everyone in the UK when they need them and where they need them. Certainly, having a healthy supply chain is important. So we are committed to have a healthy supply chain. One aspect related to this and why Sonic is, for us, it's important to understand where the technology is going. We are technology neutral, but we need to understand where the technology is going because we want to provide good advice as the technology group in Ofcom to our policy colleagues, but also a good advice to the government. And this is not only about Open RAN, it's about new technologies that are coming to the market in in this sector. Including some of the technologies we spoke about in our technology future publication a few months ago. But there is another aspect as well, which is related to your previous question, Evie, on what is missing. And certainly we have discussed about big operators who have the capabilities to build and to run Open RAN testbed equipment. So there is also the aspect of small operators who might not have these capabilities, and for them, Sonic could be a resource. And finally, going back to a point that Arnaud and Stefano have made, there is the aspect of private networks. So last year, we had a program of engagement with different verticals, and from very high-tech companies with a lot of resources. So for example, we spoke to online supermarkets, we spoke to companies doing salmon farming in Scotland. So a lot of technology skills, and certainly the capability and the resources to come across and test these technologies. But then we also spoke to some very small companies, family-run businesses, and I think it's true there is an opportunity for Open RAN in private networks, but there's also the need of supporting, particularly the small players. And I think there is a role for Sonic Labs in this space.
Yeah, definitely. And to Natasha's point on kind of volume and scale as well. Fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm going to open up the questions to the Q&A. So there's been loads of traffic, which is great to see. But just kind of taking that point, which is around, how Sonic Labs fills the gap that industry testing leaves, for example, the end game of there's a question here, there's the end game of being ready to deploy this approach in dense MNO networks. We'll need testing of multi-cell outdoor networks, RIC. It will be, all of that will be crucial with many terminals running simultaneously. Does Sonic aspire to do that and to go all the way, or do you anticipate those later stages being done kind of by MNOs or in industry? Dritten?
Okay, thank you, Evie. The answer is a bit of both. So no mobile operator, large or small, will effectively go into deployment without a very, very comprehensive integration and testing before deployment. So everything will be ironed out, pretty much what Natasha and Stefano and Arno mentioned before. The key thing but at the same time, there are still these questions that hang over Open RAN as a relatively new, and I use the word relatively softly, technology, because one of the key things for Open RAN for deployment is to prove in the UK and the rest of Europe for the ability to deploy at scale. In that space, we anticipate that Sonic Labs will build both an indoor and an outdoor multi-sited, multi-cell environment to allow companies during their development stage to effectively test some of the things like what Arno said earlier, so that they discover things that are related to deployment aspects and related to the operation during their product development stage. We always refer to it into technology readiness levels 5 to 7, so that when they graduate to go to industry labs or to operator testing environments, they will go a bit readier. And also the network operators of all kinds, both private networks and national operators, will have a better confidence that some of the issues would have been ironed out rather than go for at-scale deployment and integration when everything has been deployed in one room, in one lab. So we definitely have an intention to go there with Sonic as part of this funnel of preparing companies in the UK and operating for the UK companies they intend to come and provide supply to the UK telecommunication supply chain, to effectively come and graduate in a way towards commercial adoption and commercial deployment.
Evie, do you mind if I just add something to Drita?
Sure, of course.
I wanted to make people understand that virtualization is a technology that now is deployed in mass in the core space, for example. I mean, Mavenir supports in excess of 150 million customers in distributed environment, like 29 data centers and so on. So what is, what really the focus needs to be, which I believe is important, is the operability and the automation with intelligent system in open networks, because that is what make it the difference when you start to deploy and operate a network. So it's very important that, you know, when you have an open interoperable system, it will help for things to be automated and smart. Because today, one of the limitations of the legacy solutions is that they are not smart enough. And for example, I have been myself an operator. I deployed the network in the UK. You know, a lot of operators has been forced and still are forced today to actually adopt develop a geographical deployment strategy for RAN, because each legacy vendor are not mixing each other very well, while instead Open RAN will demonstrate how this will be possible. Operators have a much more freedom to mix up, to replace and to improve performances by having systems that can be operated well, and actually that can be automated in a very smart way. That's where all the work on RIC and stuff like Arnaud said and so on. So that's very important. And you know, I have heard everybody saying we need to see it in volume. I will be very happy to say that from September, you know, with Dish in the US and launch of Las Vegas, the first city, you know, will start to be in super volume. And as such, you know, I think that will shed completely the light on this last point that the traditional vendors are still using to thread and continue to maintain their lock-in.
Thank you very much. I feel like that's going to generate more questions now, or at least comments. So thank you. That's great. But kind of picking up on that, and I'm going to, this is a question for the Sonic team, but I would also like to hear from the kind of suppliers on the line as well, which is around knowledge sharing. And it's around how do you take the kind of information and the results from the testing that are coming out of Sonic Labs, and you know, is it feeding back into ORAN Alliance specs? Is it going into TIP blueprints, the kind of test and integration focus groups in ORAN Alliance? Tristan, I've seen you've taken yourself off mute, so I'm assuming you're ready to answer that question. No. Okay. Federico, go ahead.
Sure, I can start, Evie. So Sonic has been built in a way to be open and to share our learning to others. And we're going to be doing it in different ways. First of all, we are complementary to other labs. We're complementary to other initiatives. As we said, we've been sharing and will be sharing information with them. We are planning a first publication of a learning in the first phase for the next month. So that is going to be very soon, probably already in the autumn. And we want to target different type of audiences. We want to target some more technical audiences, some more international audiences, some more say audiences interested in the use cases side rather than interoperability and testing side. So it'll be, we want to target different type of people, and there is the other aspect of being able to support, as I said, smaller operators, smaller vendors, and to be able to share information with them as well.
Brilliant, thank you. And if I could ask one of the others, what kind of information, if you weren't involved in Sonic Labs, what kind of information would you like to be made available out of something like this? As a supplier, as a kind of player in the ecosystem, if you didn't have direct access, what would you like to see in that kind of report? Gonna see who looks ready. Arnaud?
Did I look ready? Right. I think it's a good question to me. Again, we mentioned that earlier. I think knowledge transfer is a key element of this, right? And that's also why we are there, right? I think we've been working with ecosystem partner prior to this, but I think this is really kind of giving a boost to, let's say, to the knowledge sharing that we are doing amongst ourselves, right? So I think we brought up certain elements which are sometimes very tactical, but I think back to the point of Stefano, I mean, it's also the way we deploy network, right? And how, you know, Open RAN will trigger new ways of deploying networks and real proof points of that, right? And showing a bit the way into that and really documenting that, because I think, be them big or small, I think, let's say, the industry is kind of getting wave of innovation, right? And they need to absorb that, right? So I think this initiative is really a way for us to kind of package the learning and share that, especially for this new way of deploying network, right? I mean, I think Stefano made good points in terms of legacy ways and kind of constraint that used to be in legacy deployment. I mean, now we're getting into, you know, these cloud native deployments and how do we, you know, how can we transfer that knowledge? And I think that's a key element, because some people, you know, let's say, are not confident into that until they see something real coming out of this new way of deploying. So I think that, to me, that's an important element. Another one is everything around, you know, benchmarking of the solutions, right? And understanding, you know, okay, well, you know, everyone is kind of sometimes playing a bit with numbers, and okay, well, this should be this and this should. But I think we have an opportunity here to really get some proof points and some very accurate points of end-to-end benchmarking of solutions, right? And not so much to, you know, to compete with each other, but really to give the industry, I think, very concrete and factual, let's say, benchmarks as to, you know, what can they expect for this type of open solutions.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much. And I mean, Natasha, you kind of mentioned something earlier around the kind of value of having access to that wider ecosystem as well. So I'm guessing that's a kind of similar thing, or for you as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a similar thing, and I would also add that would be good to identify weak points in these integrations, in the sense, where is most of the challenge coming from? Is it on the radio side? Is it on integration with the core? Is it really the fact that you are in, you know, different disparate locations? What is it that's really, call it the, you know, weak link in the system, right? We need to identify that. The other thing is, do we see these challenges when you start doing performance and scale testing, or is this just happening, you know, on a regular test bed, right? Those are the kind of things that start being uncovered. And as we start capturing all this information, I think it helps the industry as a whole to move forward.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. We've also got a question. Oh, Dritten, yes, of course.
If I may come in, because I wasn't dodging the question, but I really wanted to have everyone else say. So there are, in addition to everything, so we certainly will provide. So the current Sonic activity will be reporting in, as Simon Burley already flagged, it will be reporting back to by the end of October. But as many of you know, this is very, very much open activity. We will generalize some of the learning. So this is very much something that we do with all of our vendors and being sensitive, but picking up on what Arno and also Stefano and Natasha said, it is something that helps the industry. So it is not particularly putting the spotlight on individual vendors or on individual tests, but more on what is achievable across a broader section of the industry, and that section will become bigger. Another dimension which is very significant for the dissemination is how many of these things that will arise during the integration and interoperability testing are because of misinterpretation or different interpretation. There is no such thing as misinterpretation, but different interpretation of the standards and the specifications. And where can we provide a way where a communal voice can arise out of these tests to go into the standardization space and provide a bit of an input there from an implementability perspective, rather than purely from a feature and an IP perspective. And that is a very, very crucial kind of dissemination. We are in discussions with various partners, with various stakeholders, sorry, not partners, to find the best way of how this process will particularly work. Both in terms of membership to ETSI and to 3GPP, but also discussing with RAN Alliance, with telecom infrastructure projects, and with others to find the best way of how the lessons learned can be kind of diverted in different ways for the knowledge sharing. but I wanted to flag the standardization side because I think that is quite an important aspect, as I said, coming from an implementability perspective.
Definitely. I think it's a question that comes up again and again. So it's always helpful. And it perfectly segues into another question we've had, which is around certification and whether there are any plans to formalize the kind of sonic tested kite mark certification. I don't know if, who looks ready out of Federico and Dritten? Dritten, go.
I think we have discussed it, and Federico can come in on this. But our position is that we are an enabler and an added value into the ecosystem, operating at a pre-commercial space for companies. And as part of that, to maintain that collaborative spirit, we will build test house capabilities to support the integration and interoperability testing, but we will not be doing certification. The genuine value and the genuine outcome and impact from Sonic Labs activities into the ecosystem will be how much readier the companies will be going through a Sonic Lab engagement towards a more targeted both certification but also industry adoption. Federico,
just to add that then we were going to interface with other organizations that might be doing certification, and then it's going to be for the companies coming to Sonic, is going to be very important to come through Sonic Labs for get to the point to be able to go through the certification.
Yeah, that makes sense.
One very small thing as well is additionally is that we are discussing. For example, we have had quite significant discussions with telecom infrastructure project, for example, that we in Sonic Labs, we align in the testing methodology and the processes so that companies are not just ready from a technology perspective, but also that the ecosystem, the pipeline works a bit more smoothly in terms of, and that's what we mean by having a test house capability and aligning with the test processes that other organizations will do, but not to do certification ourselves.
Yes, perfect. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much. I have been told to keep to time very strictly. So I would like to kind of conclude with a final question about what's next? What's next for Sonic? What does the future look like now that we've kind of opened the doors? So I'm just going to go through each of the panelists. If you could very briefly tell me what you'd like to see coming out of Sonic Labs, considering the experience that you've already had, and what, how will it help the industry as a whole? So if I start with Natasha.
I think what would be interesting to see is a lot of the performance testing, capacity planning, testing, but also would be great to see some new scenarios, especially, as we are moving towards some very low latency and media-centric applications. Would be good to see some applications which can test the system a little bit more strongly. Would be very interesting to bring to the table.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And Arno?
And a couple of points. I think we've talked already about dissemination, so I'm not going to dwell on that anymore. But to me, there are, I think, two elements that we need to look at. I mean, first of all, swapping the components, right? I mean, making sure that we can break the initial chain and kind of do interop and end-to-end testing between each other in a different setup. And let's imagine that maybe in the next session like this that we can show, let's say, another mix of components. I mean, CU, DU, and RU coming from, let's say, the ecosystem and being mixed and matched. I think that would be a great token of let's say of openness and componentization and disaggregation. So that's really a key element to me. The second one, which we've touched upon in a few of the a few moments here, is the whole aspect of RAN intelligence, right? I think when we talk about Open RAN, it's obviously opening up the interface to make sure that you can swap around the components, but it's also opening up the data and the control hooks, right? So I think we believe strongly that the RAN automation is a key value add to Open RAN. So and everything around usage of the rig, of the XApps, and applying that to the setup that we have now in the Sonic Lab would be, let's say, for us a key next step to demonstrate the value of Open RAN.
Stefano?
Yeah, I focus on one point only because the others is explored all and all agree. But to me, the next phase is really for Sonic to focus on that automations and smart operation, intelligent run, because that's the bit that everybody miss. And that's the bit that will make everything failing if we don't follow it up as it has been for the legacy traditional solutions. That's really the area where I look forward to contribute, because I think that is going to be the winning one, and will give that confidence and help operators and everybody, not whether it works, because we know it works, but how it works, how smart we can do it, how it improve our businesses.
Brilliant. Federico?
Thank you, Evie. The other panelists have already spoken about the short and medium term, and I would like to add something about the medium to long term. And I'm very excited of thinking how we can leverage on the Sonic platform to trial new technologies on the top of Sonic Labs platform. I'm thinking about new emerging technologies in the medium to long term. Looking at openness beyond RAN, looking at openness, for example, in the fixed sector, looking at the impact of softwareization and cloudification to deliver new services for consumers. So, for example, a class of services we recently investigated in Ofcom is related to immersion and distance, to interacting with people and objects at distance, to virtual and augmented reality. And I think Sonic is an opportunity also to test some of these new services and new environment. And some of these services will be very relevant for consumers and citizens. That's why we're very keen also with this other aspect of Sonic.
Fantastic. And last but not least, Dritten.
Thank you. First of all, we want what we at Sonic Labs, Digital Catapult and Ofcom want to see Sonic is to be useful and to add value into the ecosystem, and to listen to what our key stakeholders, both UK government, Ofcom, regulator, as well as the broader industry, want us to do. In that space, we also are very, very aware that there is a very, very fast moving technology development pace. And what I would like, pretty much what Federico said, on one side, will be repeating what the process that we did again and again and again with different vendors, with different, and expanding the range so that we can create new and better and stronger connections on the integration space. So elevating in that way. But second, also, alongside with the industry, elevating and starting to look at new technologies like the intelligent controller and the intelligence and automation that Stefano mentioned and Arno mentioned, but also looking beyond that into what the open networks in the future will effectively need and enable. So Sonic is an evolving facility we are starting with Open RAN, we are talking on where we are, but for me, it is also part of a journey together with the industry to create that pipeline of technically underpinned innovation.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And thank you very much to all of the panelists today. Arno, Stefano, Natasha, Federico, Dritten, thank you. Paul, I'm sorry, I have failed to keep to time. Back to you.
You're very close, very close. So if I can ask all the panelists to thank you very much for your time, and if you could turn off your videos, then we'll thank you. So and thank you, Evie, and so thank you everyone for that. I found it very insightful. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you did too. And thank you for all the questions as well. Loads of great questions in there. And so at the closing notes, we're slightly over, so apologies. I'll go through this very quickly. So thank you all for attending this. Thank you for joining and staying for this. And thank you to all of the speakers. I found it great. But today we launched Sonic. So we launched the event, and thank you to everyone who made it happen. So thanks to DCMS, thanks all the team in Digital Catapult and Ofcom who've been working so hard to pull this together. to all of the partners and suppliers. It's been a bit of a roller coaster, very up and down, as we've been we've learned a lot in terms of how collectively and individually on how to pull all of these things together and get everything running. And also, finally, thank you to the events team for pulling all of this together and for graciously dealing with all the ups and downs. As I say, we've with the technical part of it and doing this during a pandemic when we can't get into the lab and all that kind of stuff. You know, we can't get the right numbers of people. It's created lots of we've needed to be very flexible in the way that we've done this. So thank you to everyone for pulling it all together and making it look so professional as I believe it has. And next, so now we've been focusing up until this point on getting that set of products and vendors that you have there. So thank you to Acceleran, Radisys, Mavenir, Fluido, FNet, Foxconn, Benatel, and Druid for all of your support. We've been focusing on getting them together in these particular chains. The next steps will be mixing them up, as Arno was just talking about. And also we'll be looking for the next set of products to bring on through this, to mix into this, and also to bring their own end-to-end chains for Open RAN. And in the longer term, we'll be looking at technologies or standards beyond Open RAN. So I would like anyone interested in following up to follow up on that link there and register. We've not been following up so much up until recently, and that's apologies. That's because we've been going through with this set we've got here, but now we're looking at building, as Britton said, again and again, the next ones and the next group. So thank you again. And all of the videos will be, so this will be recorded, it'll be on YouTube, that will be shared later, and also the demos will be on there as well. So I think I'm slightly over, but I tried to rush through that. So I think I'm done. And thank you to everyone, and I wish you a good rest of day.